Hello everyone and welcome along to the immediate post-match reaction as Rangers go out of the Europa League at the quarter final stage, losing 2-0 to Athletic Bilbao. Tonight in Bilbao, I'm joined by Iain Mitchell to go over the game and to give our views on the events of tonight. Iain, how are you feeling after that?
Deflated, I guess. I just said to you that before we came on, it feels like we just went out with a whimper in the end. Again, it's a bit of a hard luck story with that penalty, obviously, that we'll come on to. But just in the end, I feel like we could have done something a bit more, could have been a bit smarter in certain moments, certain subs, obviously, that were made. I don't think many people will have agreed with. But when you sort of take a wee step back, they are a much higher quality side than we are. They are used to this level. Yes, we're maybe used to it as well, but we've been punching above our weight so most of this campaign again in Europe. So just a better team won for me over the two ties. But as I said, it stings a little bit just now. That's the season over with.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's plenty to talk about. There's potential penalties given, not given. Sorry, some wild substitutions and decisions being made from the management team at key stages of the game. Injuries, a big factor,
of course.
Yep. Yet again, it's just a constant with Rangers at this moment in time. And I think I have to agree with you in terms of you see the quality they've got right across the pitch, to be honest. And we didn't really, we had a couple of half chances at goal or speculative efforts, but we never really. One thing I noticed about them was they never gave up many chances. We gave up quite a lot, and we were relying on last-ditch tackles. We were relying on good goalkeeping. Barely got a sniff across the full two legs, did we?
No, that's the thing. I mean, I think the stat came out during the game. They've got the meanest defence in Europe, and you can absolutely see why. They're so well drilled, and then they've got that bit of quality up front. Like even over the two legs, Nico Williams obviously scored tonight, but I don't think he was great, and he's like their main man across two games. He was kept pretty quiet. Likewise, the rest of the attack didn't do much for me, but the defence is just so solid. It doesn't give chances away. It stays compact. Like you say, our half chances came from a couple of long-range shots, a couple of corners, but even at that, I can't imagine their keeper made a real save of note, other than that Czerny one that moves a bit on his way through. So that's the only decent save I think he made. So I don't really put that down to us as much as I put it down to them being so solid at the back. Like, I mean, they are fourth in La Liga. They're only behind the big three, so they're no mugs. I mean, they were the joint best points total of the group stage as well. They're a good side. But just as I go back to, I feel like we could have done more to try and hurt them, to try and impose ourselves in the game a little bit more. It just feels very, very much like a procession towards the end there.
I think so. I think that was one of the things that struck me particularly about tonight's game. Last week's first leg, you can take the fact we were down to 10 men after first 10 minutes. You're going to be backs to the wall. You're going to be just trying to get hold on for as long as you can and see if you can get a sniff at it. Tonight, I kind of, yes, it's more difficult when you're away from home, but I kind of hoped we would impose ourselves on the game a wee bit more. I expected us to try and hit Bilbao in the counter-attack like we have done successfully so many times this season.
That's what confused me, because see if you think back to the Fenerbahce game or the Nice game or even the game in Sweden at the start, we were solid at the back and set up to counter, but we did have a proper threat going forward. Like, I'm no pure XG guy, but the XG in Turkey was insane. It was the highest it's been all season because we kept flooding forward when we got the ball. Whereas tonight, a big part of it is Dessers can't hold the ball up, right? But we know he can't do that. Like, he's not going to start.
Let's talk about that one. That's a huge part because obviously going by the team selection, we'll come back to Liam Kelly, the choice of starting Liam Kelly again in a second, but starting with Cyril Dessers because he was the one that you mentioned there. I wasn't surprised to see him start tonight because he was rested against Aberdeen at the weekend, so it wasn't a surprise to see him. But to be honest, I would have started Hamza Egeman up front. I think Hamza Egeman offers us so much more in these situations, in these types of games, in terms of just being able to get us up the park. See when you know it's going to be back to the wall. See when you know it's going to be a difficult game where you just need that out ball. I think Hamza Egeman is the one that needs to play as the main striker. Do you understand why Cyril Dessers was the one chosen?
I mean, it's easy to say after the game, obviously, but it was the conversations that we were having in the lead up to the game. Like, I think most people I spoke to would have put Egeman up front because of that hold-up play. he's also an informed striker now. Like, he was great against Aberdeen there. He pulled us back into that game from nothing. It's not as if you're putting Dessers in there because he's in great form, because he's not. But just the more that game was going on, it just showed his flaws massively for me, because you think of someone like Czerny tonight, I thought he'd be key for us to get a goal and make a goal kind of thing, but he couldn't come into the game because Dessers couldn't hold the ball. And it wasn't once or twice, it was honestly every time. It was just as if he was trying to kind of drop back or then come forward every time. He should have done the opposite. The defenders for them are just mopping it up every single time. And at this level, especially in that kind of scenario, when you're trying to play counter, you're trying to just get up the pitch a bit and have a bit of a breather, it just becomes relentless, because any ball to him just comes straight back. And again, how many pods have we sat on and just slated Dessers? This is by all means not his fault solely that we're out, but my thinking is it's his fault that we didn't have any attacking threat, or he's at least majorly part of that blame, because if you don't have a striker that can hold the ball in this scenario, what else is he doing? And as you say, Iggerman at least has that side to his game, and you know what, he might have started Iggerman, he might have had a poor game himself. We don't know these things, but it was never going to work for him tonight, Dessers. He wasn't going to start showing us something that we know he can't do.
There seems to be two schools of thought at the moment. One is kind of follows Pete Lawrence here, saying they were just a class above, read everything we could give. I think that's probably the camp I'm in terms of just we knew for so long that this hasn't been a good Rangers team this season. It hasn't even been an average Rangers team this season. But they've somehow managed to get to this stage of the competition, and they deserve credit for that. But I think if I was honest, I knew that Bilbao were going to be a really tougher than any team that we faced so far. Even when you look at the likes of Lyon and Manchester United, I thought Bilbao would be a step above that, and I think that's what they proved to be. I think the other train of thought, I guess, is GS here, who says not one player can pass the ball 5 yards. Absolutely woeful. Which in a lot of
circumstances, we're going to go on this, of course we are, but we were doing that in the first sort of 15-20 minutes a bit, because Diomande was at the centre of the pitch. He can take a ball in, move it on. How many free kicks did he win tonight? But as everyone on Twitter was saying, as these comments were going to be saying, if you then move your sort of most, he's not really creative as such, it's more just he can hold the ball a bit.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that just now then, right? So we'll come back to the Dessers penalty shout after 17 minutes, but since we're talking about the sort of Diomande and him moving him out of midfield and two left back, Ridvan Yilmaz is starting obviously as a right wing back. He goes down after 21 minutes, I think, roughly. Looked like a hamstring straight away from chasing Nico Williams. I'm not sure Barry Ferguson knows what to do there, because you see Enciala on the bench getting switched, which I think is probably the most natural one, because you would say put Enciala in and put Barry Ferguson at right back, put James Tavernier out at right back, and it's the least disruption to the team. Enciala is a decent centre half. We've seen what he can do. He has his moments. You never know how players are going to perform in games like big games like tonight, and big moments and challenging atmospheres. But that seemed the most obvious change. Instead, he brought on Connor Barron. There seemed a hell of a lot of confusion for a good 4 or 5 minutes amongst our players as to where they were supposed to be, who was playing where. Diomande ended up at left wing back, whether he was supposed to be there or he's just started to play there because there was no one standing there. I'm not entirely sure. But you saw the camera even showed James Tavernier and John Suter like going, what are we supposed to be doing? Where are we supposed to be going? And it was a bizarre decision for me, and it seems that everyone agrees it was just such a strange one. Was it which one would you have gone for, I guess?
When I seen it was Barron, I thought he must be putting Barron as like a right back, just like a makeshift guy to stand on Williams. And I got it. I was like, okay, it makes a bit of sense just to help have that kind of area. Again, it's not ideal, but we know we're sort of limited what we can do. So I think he's chose Barron over Enciala as like an experience thing, because Enciala hasn't ever played European football. So I get that side of it. But if you're having to move, 3 or 4 players out of the position, and it's not as if you're putting them back to their natural roles, like you're putting Diomande somewhere. I don't remember him ever playing there, personally. You're putting Jeffrey into a centre-back position, which is horrendous because he can't defend. So you're doing 2 or 3 things that are just making problems for yourself. And for me, it was the case of he's done that, and we all think it's wrong, and I think he himself thought it was wrong, but he continued with it. Like, surely, if you're seeing the same patterns of play happening, you're seeing the same problems, you think, right, I'll change it here. He had all the players on the pitch there to go to a back four, tight midfield, the same way Gerrard would have played in Europe, that very compact, like 4-3-3 thing. Again, it might not have worked, but you've got the players there who want or who are naturally playing that role. So I think we all know he got the sub wrong. I think he knows he got the sub wrong, because you see in Ciala second half, barely put a foot wrong. Like, he was fine. Then he probably would have been fine for the whole game. And I think that's where things really started to turn for us, because we were crying out for half time after that sub.
100%. I think we were all talking in our group chat about, I think it was the 29th minute, where we all said we just need to get to half time here. We were absolutely desperate for it from that point onwards, because the players looked all over the place. Diomande had become the most ineffective player on the pitch from being the most effective one.
If he was trying to be too clever with it, but because they kept saying in commentary, like, in possession we're one shape, out of possession we're another, and that's fine if you've worked on it and you know what you're doing, everyone knows where to move, but you can't do that midway through a game with no prior knowledge of playing like that. Like, that's what I said. You get 3 or 4 guys who are asking each other and the management, where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to go? And it took them a while to kind of judge, right, okay, you're there, I'm here. Like, you can't do that at a quarter-final Europa League. That's so amateur.
Yeah, and there's been a lot about Rangers that's been amateur this season, but I think that's kind of been symptomatic of our season so far. Let's go back though. The 17th minute, Cyril Dessers goes down in the box. I think we're all guilty of any time Cyril Dessers goes down, whether it's in the box or outside the box, of assuming that he's not going to get anything given. He's probably gone down a bit lightly. This time though, it maybe wasn't the biggest pull of a shirt ever, but it does rip his shirt. Pretty much rips the sponsor off his shirt, and that doesn't happen without him being impeded. For me, it's a penalty. I can see why the referee doesn't give it in real time, but when VAR looks at it, 100% has to be a penalty. Is that what was your view of it? Do you think it should have had the penalty in that moment when you see what penalties have been given for? For Bilbao in both legs, do you think that's yet again a refereeing mistake that could have made a real difference in the game?
Massively. I think you look at last night in the Arsenal Real Madrid game, that's a slight pull, and the ref gave that when it's nowhere near the ball. Tonight, he's literally ripped the shirt from him, and there's a very obvious, clear joke to make there about Cousteau's quality of shirt that I'm going to just totally avoid, but it's so, like, modern day football, that's always a penalty. And like you say, I'm not blaming the ref as such, because when it happened, I thought, that's Dessers, he's probably just fell over. And the ref immediately says no penalty, so it doesn't matter that Dessers is like showing him the shirt and whatever. But the VAR team have got to be looking at that. My fear and worry here is that the ball's not going to play for a while. So it's maybe another 2 or 3 minutes before the ball goes out. So the VAR guys are obviously looking at it, thinking, is it clear and obvious? Probably not. If the ball goes straight out of play and the ref goes and looks at that, it's a penalty, probably a red card as well, all day. And that's...
He's either attempting to play the ball, is he? So I hadn't even considered that, to be honest. I was more annoyed at the fact that it wasn't a penalty, but I hadn't considered that actually he's not making any attempt to play the ball. He's denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. It's a penalty to Rangers and a red card. Yep,
it has to be. And you'll probably get some kind of UEFA response in the next few days saying, it's a mistake, it's an error, but it doesn't matter at that point. Like, it's the VAR guy should be pausing the game and saying, look, this looks like a penalty, go and have a look for yourself. Maybe the ref will stick with his decision, you don't know, but for the ref to not have looked at that or not been told to look at that, it's criminal. It just doesn't make any sense to me, especially looking at their penalty last week, like you touched on. It's really frustrating, because but we're sitting here sort of slagging Dessers and saying subs were wrong and stuff, but if we're against 10 men with a penalty, we're suddenly big favourites to go through, and that's just going to sting. It's the same as the Champions League knockouts when Jeff got that daft second yellow. It stings when, yes, you can say we weren't the better team, we probably didn't deserve to go through, but these massive moments going against us, it's so frustrating. Yeah, there's plenty of comments saying it was a red card because there was no attempt to play the ball, which it absolutely would have been. If you go 1-0 up at that stage against 10 men, it's huge. But when we go through the half, we spoke there once the changes were made. We were just desperate to get to half time. We weren't really doing much. We seemed a bit all over the place. Yep.
30 seconds before half-time, ball's played through to the Bilbao striker. John Souttar makes a clumsy, I would call it a clumsy tackle, because it doesn't look like he realises that Balogun is there and kind of shepherding the striker away from goal. It's right at the corner of the box, which is always frustrating, because the striker still has so much to do before they even get a shot on goal. It's such a disappointing decision from John Souttar at such a critical point in that game. I think if you get to half time at 0-0, you're quite happy with the first half in terms of the result at that stage. The home crowd are starting to get frustrated, and you get to reset and set up for the second half. I think conceding that penalty at that time, going 1-0 down, just pretty much the last kick before half time, it really took the wind out of any hope or optimism the team would have had.
Yeah, because I think when that happens, I personally don't see us getting back into it, knowing how good they are at the back and what we're like depleted to. But I'll even go a minute or so before that penalty gets awarded. We win a free kick in our own half and take it quick and just give the ball away. And yeah, a lot happens leading up to that, but just a bit of game management. Like, look at the surroundings you're in. Look at the scene. Pause, get people out of the pitch, relax, and just kind of see it out till half time. And it's one little key moment. It's this squad just don't do it very well. They don't manage situations and games very well. But yeah, we'll come on to a few more instances like this. But Souttar has quite a Souttar performance tonight for me, because he's solid. He wins all his headers. He wins loads of tackles. But he has that little moment, has that little negative in his game.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's concentration, it's awareness, whatever it is, but it's so needless, this one, because you touched on it. It's the area it's at. The guy's not going to score from there. He's not going anywhere. Balogun's covering. There's so much to say. Like, he can just leave it, just do nothing. But the second he puts that foot out, the Bilbao player's waiting for it. And yeah, that one is a penalty. I saw a few people saying it's a soft one, but it's a penalty for me all day. So I'm not going to sit and moan about that. But just that bit of game management could have saved that whole moment, and it's a totally different tie.
Yeah, so go in half time, 1-0 down. Everything's against us. I'm sitting there hoping that Barry Ferguson's going to find a way to switch it up in terms of, not only in terms of so the players know what they're doing and the right players in the right positions, but also in terms of giving us a bit more of an attacking threat. I didn't think we had to come out all guns blazing, start a second half 1-0, you're still all right. You can try and get to the last 15, 20 minutes at 1-0 and then have a bit more of a go, be a bit more expansive. The last thing we needed, though, was our centre halves to run into each other and mean that we need another substitution to be made just after we brought on the only centre half we have on the bench. But that's exactly what happened. John Souttar and Leon Balogun collide. Leon Balogun looked maybe like a broken cheekbone, broken jaw kind of situation. The physio was pretty quick in terms of communicating that he wasn't able to continue. But that's almost the story of our season, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to go back to this is 20 seconds into the second half, but in those 20 seconds, Jeffrey makes two massive errors that are just out of nowhere. Like,
he was getting a lot of criticism tonight from people. I felt it was justified. Do you agree?
Same. I put out a tweet this morning because I was kind of on the fence whether we should play Jeffrey or Inciala, thinking I don't really trust either defensively. But as long as they've got cover around them and a back four beside them, you'd hope they could kind of see them through. But he was a real bomb scare for me all night. And it's one thing like sleeping and letting a player run off you. That's something he has done this season. But stop the cross. Yeah, I know, spoiler there. But stop the cross. Like, all Jeffrey was doing was kind of standing off and letting someone come at him and cross it. But this exact moment, the ball is pinged from their kickoff over to Jeffrey. Just leave it. Just let the ball go. Someone needs to be screaming at him, leave that, it's going out. But
if only that was one thing he took from Borna Barisic. Every long ball out towards him was attempted to go out.
True, has a name, a blast from the past. But he headers it into a danger zone, which is problem number one. But then just stands off and just stands up. Like, if you make the header error, go and tackle him, get a foot in. And it's those two instances that let the ball come in that sees that injury take place. And it is a freak injury. Like, it's not like a hamstring or one of the like normal ones we get. It can happen, but same as you, I think I put in the group chat, we are cursed. Like, how many game injuries that we get, it is insane. It drives you insane. But yeah, at that point, I think we did make the right sub. To be fair, it's just a case of, right, we need to go for it now. We may as well. What have we got to lose? But again, like you were saying, once the goal goes in, we're never doing it. And once Balogun goes off, you think, right, what else can possibly go wrong here? It's disaster territory suddenly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think not only do the injuries mean that we've got fewer and fewer players to use, but they also just cause so much disruption in game, disrupt any flow or any chance of any rhythm developing for us, and it just kind of nullifies any chance of that. Never mind a drop in the quality or the players having to be moved around to different positions in the pitch. That being said, I actually thought we came into the game a bit more after that at the start of the second half. I'd say maybe the first 20-25 minutes of the second half, I felt like we were more into the game. I felt it was much more towards a 50-50. 57 minutes on the clock, we probably get our only real chance of the game, I'd say. The ball falls to Nico Raskin 6 yards out, like maybe slightly less than 6 yards out. He gets the ball first. Goalkeeper makes himself big, manages to hit off his sort of torso and hit against the post. Maybe again symptomatic of the luck that we've had this season. But really unlucky. There was then a VAR check for a penalty again there, sort of handball in the build-up, just after Cyril Dessers attempted an overhead kick. It was an interesting one because it looked very, very similar to the Dujon Sterling one that was given last week. Where was your thoughts? Where was your head? What were your thoughts on that?
If I'm a neutral, I'm watching that saying, nah, he shouldn't be given that penalty. The guy's not like advertently hit it. It's just hit him, sort of thing.
I guess though, if you're a neutral, having watched the game last week as well.
Exactly. When you have last week's penalty decision in your mind, it's very, very similar. Again, it's a hard one because you don't want to go on a podcast and sit and go, it's the ref's fault, the ref could have done it. But it's another big moment that goes against us. And the play before it, like you say, Raskin hitting the post, keeper does very well to make that a save. Like that's really good goalkeeping, fair enough. But if you're not getting those decisions, you're not getting the luck on the night, what chance have you got? My fear is that if that was up the other end of the pitch, I can see that being given as a penalty. And I don't like saying stuff like that. It's just the way this ref was going all night. Any 50-50 one, any dubious one, anything that could have gone either way was going to them. And I don't know if that was a crowd pressure. I don't know what that was, but it was a constant theme you saw during this game. And
did you sound like you were buying into Jose Mourinho's
fully bought it, yes.
UEFA want Bilbao in the final? Is that where you got to?
I mean, he said at the time, and I scoffed and thought, that's classic Jose. But no, he's spot on. He's spot on. If you look at the penalties, this, that, it's the ref's fault. We're out again. It's nothing to do with us.
Absolutely nothing to do with us whatsoever. There wasn't really much else of note, to be honest, from a Rangers side. Cherny had the effort from 25-30 yards. It was a kind of speculative shot. Wasn't much coming. It wasn't much opportunity for it, but the keeper did spill it, and we weren't quick enough to the rebound. Outside of that, head into the last 10 minutes, you think we're going to have to go for this here, but we've still got a chance of rescuing it. Nico Williams, who is a tremendous footballer, but he pops up at the back post. James Tavernier just falls asleep. We've seen it. How many times have we seen that goal happen over the years? James Tavernier, who I actually thought was having a good game, if I'm honest. I thought he was playing well, but he falls asleep. You can see his reaction before Nico Williams even scores with a header. He's kind of waving his hands about, hoping William Kelly can save him. The ball flies into the back of the net. 2-0 Bilbao. Game over. Season over for Rangers. But it was just another disappointing goal to lose when you're not even really having a proper goal yet. You're probably just about to start having a goal to get that equaliser, and it just kills any chance.
It does, and we'll come on to Tav, absolutely. But what does it come from? It comes from Dessers not holding the ball up, Jeffrey not stopping across, and it's just you can get away with that so often. But when Dessers has done that 5 or 6 times, and Jeffrey's done that 5 or 6 times, they're going to hurt you. I'd love to see how many headers Nico Williams has scored in his career, by the way, because the guy's 5'4". He shouldn't be winning any headers. But it's the same mistakes from the same people time and time again. It's what we've said all season. It happens domestically, it happens in the cup games, it happens in Europe.
Yeah.
The same guys let us down. And that will sound harsh because you're spot on. Tav had a good game apart from that moment. Suter had a good game apart from his moment. And it's just the same nonsense, the same crap we need to watch every season. And it's why we do need humongous change. Like there's very few positions in the squad that you think, okay, we're fine there. We'll go with that next season. Other than maybe those two in midfield, who I would make sure we do give some credit to, because I think Diomande and Raskin were very strong tonight. They look.
I don't think that. I think they were okay. I just don't. That midfield, any combination of our midfield just doesn't work. To be honest, it needs to be ripped up and started again. I think
like they would work with something. I don't know what that something is. If it's a guy behind them or someone attacking with them, but those two give me enough hope that they're close to a decent midfield there. But if you have nonsense right around that, like you're not going to win games against Bilbao. So it doesn't really matter who else is there. Like when you've got such poor players alongside them.
Yeah, the game kind of petered out a bit from there. There wasn't. I think Igaman had a bit of a half chance towards the end, but it would have been nothing but a consolation. Iain, out the Europa League at the quarter-final stage, an admirable European run is how I would say it. I think playing well above our own level for what this team has offered this full season. But someone just there in the comments saying Nico Williams is 6 foot. So
not having that. No chance.
I think, but it's been an absolutely horrible season for Rangers all round this year. The Europa League was what we were kind of hanging our hat on to try and get us through to the end of the season. We've now got 5 meaningless games to see us through. Hopefully, there'll be news of the takeover within that time, and then it'll be onwards to ripping apart this team, ripping apart our squad, appointing a new manager, and trying to forget this season ever happened. How are you viewing the last 5 games or so of the season? How do you as a fan approach it, I guess?
It's tough. It's tough because even through all the nonsense this season's brought us domestically, you've always had that, well, at least we've still got Europe. At least we've still got Europe. We're still doing this in Europe. Now that's gone, it is an absolute procession just to get through this. Yeah. How many tickets have you seen between Twitter and follow Facebook, whatever it is, people selling those last 3 games as a package? Just people are done. Everyone's fed up. It'll be very empty Ibrox. Even Old Firm game, I don't expect a sellout, which is insane because it's an Old Firm. But yeah, for me, tonight is hopefully the last time we see certain players. And I don't know if Ferguson will go down that route. I don't know what his thinking will be in terms of trying to keep his own stock high, but I would just be putting the kids in at this point, giving guys experience. There's no other point to this. Your Dessers, Tav, Proper. There's a decent list here that I could go through of who shouldn't play for Rangers again. But again, it's just a bit pointless, all these last 5 games now, isn't it? We can win all 5. We can win 10-0 each game. Doesn't mean anything. We probably will win most of these games because there's no pressure now.
You're going to say you probably will win 10-0.
Not quite, no. I'll take a 2-0 each game. But this is what this squad do now, isn't it? They have a good no pressure zone. So yeah, it's just a bit of a waste of time, all this now. Just hopefully we get confirmation of ownership, confirmation of managers and stuff like that starts dribbling through, and we can start to get some hope back, because it's very deflating in this moment, sadly.
Well, it's very deflating, and to be honest, the end of the season can't come quick enough. A lot of people saying at least Barry Ferguson's not getting the job. I don't think he had any chance of getting the job. It was long gone. After
it's a shame though in a way, see, on that, because I was on the pod a few weeks ago saying that Ferguson and his background team have been very tactically astute compared to what I thought they would be, whereas tonight has undone a lot of that, to be honest. With the subs that get made. I don't understand what the thinking was for 2 or 3 things they've done at certain times, and as I say, you can't be getting away with that at this level. So as much as his stock I think had improved a lot for what he's done, and he's surprised a few people, he's just as quickly kind of ruined that. So you obviously thank him for what he's done and stuff, and he's brought a bit of credit back slightly, I guess. But he'll be away in the next month or 2.
Yeah, he will be. I think we'll round it off there. Rangers going out Europa League at the quarter-final stage this season. Iain, thanks very much for joining us and giving your reaction. Disappointing night for Rangers, a night that brings an end to any competition this season. bring on the summer as quickly as we can. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do drop a like and subscribe to the TII channel, whether that's on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Anywhere you listen to us on audio platforms, it helps us massively, and also means you won't miss out on any of the content coming up. I'll be back with the guys on Sunday night as we look ahead to the final few games of the season and look at what's next for Rangers. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Until next time.